Today is part 2 of my top 3 in every makeup category. Hey everyone, this is Lisa. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Lisa Monique Beauty, where we cover all things beauty and lifestyle for the over 50 woman. So a couple of days ago, I published part 1 for my top 3 in every category video, and that included the face, foundation, primers, setting sprays, setting powders, blushes, and bronzers. I did want to add one other setting spray for a finishing spray because I forgot about this one. The Morphe Continuous Setting Mist. This has been a long time favorite setting spray for my finish because it is super fine mist. So my two favorite finishing sprays are the Charlotte Tilbury and the Morphe. So I did want to throw that one in there if you watched my part 1. So today in part 2, we're going to cover all about the eyes. We're going to have concealers, eyeshadow primers, color correctors, brows, liner, mascara, large eyeshadow palettes, small eyeshadow palettes, and single eyeshadow colors. So we've got a lot to get into, but before we get started, I do want to say this is in conjunction with my good friend Kat from Kat's Eye Beauty. Kat and I have been friends for about 2.5 years. We vacation together. We have visited each other a couple of times outside of vacations, and she just really is one of my best friends here on YouTube, and I am so glad to be partnering with her today. Now, she is a smaller channel. She has less than 10,000 subscribers. We're really trying to push her up to 10,000, see if we can hit that milestone in the next couple of months. After you watch this video, I'd love if you would go over to watch her channel, to watch her video on her top 3 and show her some love and subscribe and tell her that I sent you. We're going to start with eye primers. Now, I typically don't use an eye primer unless I am doing a look that I really need the colors to be intense, because I usually put my foundation or my concealer over my eyelids, and for me that's primed enough for a very light and natural look. But when I really am trying to do something, maybe a glam look or something to really make sure that the colors are intense and last all night, I will use an eye primer. So I have a couple that I like to use. The one I use the most often is from P. Louise. My shade, well, this says 02, but my shade is actually 04. The 02 and the 0.5 are ones that I use on more fair skin. They used to sell this at Morphe. I purchased it on the P. Louise website, which is a European website. I know you still can get it there. I'm not sure if they still have it at Morphe, but I do think that this is the best. It's creamy. It doesn't move into your creases at all, even if you don't set it, and it gives you a really nice base. The next one is an oldie but goodie. This is probably the first eyeshadow primer I've ever used, and it's really supposed to be a eyeshadow. It's the MAC Paint Pot, but I think because they had so many in kind of these neutral skin tones that they ended up using it more as primers. My color is Laying Low. I also use Soft Ochre. Actually, soft ochre is probably my color right now. The Laying Low is just a little bit darker when I have a little bit more color. And then Painterly is really beautiful if you have fair skin. And then the last one that I use, and these are concealers, but I actually like to use these a lot as primers also. And it's the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealers. These are a little bit drier than some of the creamy concealers, so kind of like the MAC Paint Pot, they really work well as a primer. Custard is the color that I use the most. Creme Brulee and Vanilla are for the lighter skin tones. Now, again, I don't really have a lot of dark circles. Occasionally I'm looking tired and I noticed a little bit of purplish color, but if you do have a lot of discoloration in your eyes, you might want to color correct before you apply your concealer. This prevents you from caking on the concealer and putting it on heavier and heavier and alternating it with powder and all this, trying to provide more coverage. If you counteract the purple or red undertones underneath the eyes with a corrector, then you can use less concealer. Now the key is you need to use just a little bit of both, because once again, you don't want the makeup shifting and sliding on top of each other. The color correctors that I love the most, and these are ones I used on my photography clients the most, is the Charlotte Tilbury, the Magic Vanish. This is shade number 2, which is kind of the medium color, and then here's shade number 1 for the more fair tones. I really love them. I also really enjoy, and I learned this from my good friend Tamara. She actually sent this to me because I couldn't find it at my local Target, but it's the Pixie by Petra Correcting Concealer in Brightening Peach. And they do have an apricot, which is a little bit darker, but this one does a really nice job. You know, just the peachy undertones do a really nice job counteracting that purple if you have the dark circles. And then the other one that I really love is from Beauty Pie, which is one of those, I guess it's more of a subscription service. You pay an annual fee and then you get a lot of their beauty products at a significant discount. It's kind of like a Costco for makeup products. They have this super luminous under eye genius corrector. Oh my goodness, this is so beautiful. And it has just that little bit of luminosity, so it really makes your under eyes kind of glow and not look dry and cakey. All of them work really well underneath your concealers, which is the next category we're going to go into, and that is concealers. I did divide it into drugstore and high-end. And I said this in my last video, but I'll say it once again. I have so many concealers, so many foundations, so many of a lot of these products that I had pulled like maybe my 8 to 10 favorites and put them in these like little bins and everything. And then I was sitting there trying to test, but so many of them are very similar. I finally just looked at the bins and I said, okay, which 3 do I reach for the most? And so that's kind of how I narrowed it down. Here are the top 3 drugstore concealers I reach for the most. First is the NYX Born to Glow. This is a really lightweight hydrating concealer. This isn't the one that I will put on my face to use for my hyperpigmentation, but I will use it for a little bit of brightening under my eyes, especially if they're starting to look tired. My shade here is in Golden. And then also I love this one. You can see it's time to replace this one because it is definitely getting down there. This is a L'Oreal Infallible Full Wear Concealer. My shade is 385 Amber. This is a really great long wearing concealer. This one does work amazing underneath your foundation to cover your hyperpigmentation, but also under the eyes if you get it in a shade or 2 lighter. It does really good at brightening, and you just need the tiniest bit. It's extremely pigmented, so you don't need to put a lot and then try and blend it in. You just need the tiniest little bit, and that pigment will really hold and be more opaque. So it really will cover up your imperfections underneath the eyes. And then finally, this one, I think this one might have been my #1 last year, but I still use it a lot. This is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer. Again, beautiful under the eyes, just to brighten, kind of give you that fresh look all day. This mic shade is Medium Sand, which is my brightening shade. I use Tan Walnut on my face underneath my foundation. For high end, I have really been using these 3 concealers the most. First is the Hourglass Airbrush Vanishing Concealer in Beach. This one is really nice to use, again, to cover the hyperpigmentation. A little goes a long way. So I have dry to normal skin, but I hear those that have more oily and combo skin, they also say this works really well covering their spots and brightening their eyes, and it doesn't really shift throughout the day. The next one is also one of those super long-lasting concealers for all skin types. I see this in a lot of makeup artists when I'm watching on Facebook or Instagram, professional makeup artists doing clients, runway models. I see the Jouer Essential High Coverage Liquid Concealer in their kit because it really does last a long time. Again, this one is definitely one that I put on my hyperpigmentation spots underneath my foundation, but I have this in 2 shades. Well, this one is my dark shade here, which is Rich Ginger, but I also have it in Honey, which is a little bit lighter. Here's my Honey to brighten up under my eyes, or also just to kind of lift and clean up this area right here. And it's just absolutely beautiful and long lasting. And then my third favorite high-end concealer is probably my favorite right now because it does everything. It is the Dior Forever Skin Correct Concealer. It does everything in that it can lighten up under your eyes. It can go underneath your foundation to cover your hyperpigmentation. Because it's not a flat matte, it still has a beautiful finish to it. I also like to use it over my foundation to touch up spots that might have peeked through a little bit later on in the day. It is the one I am reaching for the most often right now. So brows, if you watch any of my videos, you'll probably know what my favorite brow product is right now, and it is the Revlon Semi-Permanent Brow Ink. It is a liquid brow, but it's kind of creamy. It goes on I have like bald spots, and so it goes on in those bald spots. It really reaches down and colors the skin, and then it has a built-in spoolie. So even though it's small, it does have everything all in one, and you can just kind of brush it through your brows. It does seem to coat your brows a little bit too, and then holds them in place. So you don't need a separate brow gel to hold your brows, I think this is a perfect little all-in-one. And then I also have a couple of pencils that I love. The Maybelline Brow Ultra Slim. This might have been my favorite last year too. I like really fine points. It's a retractable, so it definitely has that itty bitty tiny fine point. It's very matte. It's not too creamy, but it's not hard going on, so I don't feel like it smears and rubs off. And then the Sephora retractable brow pencil, I think, is the same way. Again, really tiny point, has the built-in spoolie, and I think it just lasts all day. So my shade that in here is 12 Granite for the Sephora, black brown for the Maybelline, and dark brown for the Revlon. I wish they did have a little bit more kind of gray, cooler, because my eyebrows are still black. I don't really want black underneath, but I would take a more of an ashy brown, dark, which is why I like the Granite from the Sephora. Okay, eyeliners. Again, I don't really change up these products very much when I find my tried and true, because they last and they don't smear. Yeah, they just are my favorites. So my first one, the one I'm using the most right now, is the Charlotte Tilbury Super Nudes Duo Eyeliner in Nude Brown. And I'd be careful if when I was searching for this, I kept getting to a Sephora.sg site. I don't know what that is, but I could just tell looking at the Sephora site, it didn't look like the regular Sephora site, and it was like $46 on that site. So this is $32 on the Charlotte Tilbury website. If you just Google it, just be careful. So it's $32. Sometimes it pops up and it might be an overseas Sephora, or it's a fake Sephora site. And then it also has this kind of nude shade, which sometimes I use on my rims. Sometimes I use it to soften the lines around my lips. If I'm going to try and reshape my lips, I need a more nude color around the lips. So I do use both sides. The other favorite is the Makeup by Mario Pigment Pro. I've always used the Perfect Brown before I discovered this one. That was the one I was using around my eyes. Now I'm using the black more. I am tight lining with this. Actually, I'm using it on my eyes too. Been enjoying using the black. I think the Charlotte Tilbury comes with one that's a black too. I just don't know if I need another duo black. This dark brown looks really good tight lining also. It almost dries on your rim, so it really doesn't move. It's kind of hard to get off. If you're just trying to like wipe it off afterwards, you almost need like an eye makeup remover to get it off your rims. And then for Drugstore, my favorite is the NYX Epic Wear liner, and I love it because it's soft and super blendable. It lasts all day. And before this, my two favorite Drugstore liners, which I loved, were the Wet n Wild and the Rimmel Scandalize, and I still like them. They're almost too soft though, so I find I get more control with the NYX one. The other ones I almost have to dot on and then use a smudge brush to make my line, because they just are super, super soft. The NYX is my favorite Drugstore right now. Okay, the next category are the large eyeshadow palettes. So those are with more than 5 shadows in a palette. And the first one is an oldie but goodie. It is the Charlotte Tilbury Pillow Talk Instant Eye Palette. So this came out maybe 2.5 years ago. And I actually resisted. I probably didn't buy it for almost a year, and then I finally broke down. It is still available on the Charlotte Tilbury website. It's not in any Sephora or Kohl's or anything like that, but you still can purchase it at the Charlotte Tilbury website. And this is just a perfect neutral palette. So you have your cool tone nudes, and then it goes to warmer, a little more peachy, and then a more neutral undertones as you go a little bit deeper. And then of course it has my favorite berries and pinks and reds. The shimmers down here are perfect lid one and done colors, and I just use them as my transition shade for so many different looks. Just if I'm trying to do just a little pop of color, I find me reaching for this all the time now, so I'm glad that I have it. The next one is the Essence Bonjour Montreal palette. This is a gorgeous neutral palette also. And you know I love my one and done shades. So this has a shimmery taupe and a kind of gold. So one's like kind of bronzy and one's kind of gold. Gorgeous fall one and done colors. It also has a really pretty red and then this pop of green, which also are going to be so gorgeous coming into the fall. And then you have all your neutral blending colors, and then you have a cool brown, and then almost a plummy undertone brown. So it's really good for the eyeliner. And then my final favorite palette is a Natasha Denona Retro palette. She did just come out with a brand new palette that everyone's raving about, but some of the comments are it's like shades from her Retro palette and her Glam palette combined, and I actually have both of those palettes. I just didn't feel the need to buy the new one, even though I'm sure I would love the new one and reach for it all the time. I still have this one. Right now I am wearing this deep color and then this color here, these two colors. This was kind of a base, a neutral base. You can see right now, I think I did my original video maybe 5 hours ago, around lunchtime, and it's around dinner time now. I had to refilm this block, and so the eyeshadow is not as vivid as in the rest of my video, but you can see that it has lasted all day and it's still really gorgeous and very pigmented. And that's why I love Natasha Denona eyeshadows, is because they last all day. They don't fade down into nothingness, or, oh, you can tell she has eyeshadow on, but you don't really know what the original color was. These stay very, very true to color. All of her eyeshadows do. So they're all well worth it. If you wanted to just get her new one instead and get some plums and some more browns and neutral shades, then I would do that. But if you already own the Glam and the Retro palette, I think you have a wide enough variety. Moving on to my smaller eyeshadow palettes, which are eyeshadow palettes with 5 shades or less. Natasha Denona, the Mini Biba palette. I love this palette. Again, nice kind of peachy nudes. This is so beautiful on the brown eyes, but these kind of warmer, kind of peachier tones will really make blue eyes pop. So if you have blue eyes, you don't necessarily have to go orange, but more peachy undertone when you go towards your browns and your nudes, those really complement blue eyes because they're opposite on the color wheel, right? Orange is opposite of blue on the color wheel. If you're wondering if you have green eyes, plums, purples, those will really make your eyes pop. And if you're brown, you can wear anything, but I do golds, rose golds, bright golds, copper golds. My next favorite, I think this one was in my top last year too. It is the e.l.f. Bite Size Eyeshadows in Cream and Sugar. Just a perfect neutral palette. And, you know, for $3, I mean, you just can't beat it. And it's got everything I need for an instant quick eye. I can use the dark shade for my eyeliner. I can do a one and done, or I can, you know, combine the two to have a little bit of shading on my outer V. The next one, I did pick 2. These are from Ulta. They were the ColourPop Pressed Shadow Palettes. This was from their summer collection, but I love these so much. They're so pigmented. So this one is called Sure Thing, and this one is Beachy Keen. I guess the Beachy Keen, you know, with its gold and browns would go more towards into the fall. I love these. These are, again, they're not bright pinks. They're a little more corally pinks. They are so pigmented and it's so gorgeous on the eyes. And I have not really used the ColourPop shadow quads before. I've had some other ColourPop palettes and, you know, I liked them. They were fine. But these really are long lasting. I'm not sure if they change up the formulation a little bit on these, but these are really super, super pigmented, easy to blend, and I really like these quads. Okay, single eyeshadows. No surprise to anybody watching my channel. Eyes to Mesmerize, still probably my #1 single eyeshadow. I did find a new shade that I'm loving because Rose Gold, I always loved Rose Gold. That was my favorite. And this one looks pretty good. And I will be honest, I've had this, I think, almost 2 years and it really hasn't dried out. So sometimes people worry about that, but mine is still nice and pigmented. I still use it quite a bit, but you just need the littlest bit. That's why it lasts so long. So my new favorite is called Star Gold. It's not one of their newer shades, but it's just new to me. This is the Star Gold. So it's a little more coppery gold. Really, really pretty. And these, yeah, are just some of my favorite one and done shadows. They last all day. They blend out beautifully. They dry down beautifully. What's not to love? Next, I have, and it's kind of similar shades here. I've got the e.l.f. No Budge Shadow Sticks in Rose Gold and in Copper Chic. These also dry down and are no budge. I feel like you need to do one eye at a time so it doesn't dry down because then you can't budge it. So here you can see the Rose Gold is a little pinker than the Charlotte Tilbury, and the copper is a little more bronzy, I think, than the Charlotte Tilbury. Last but not least, I can't tell if this was one of my favorites last year or not, but this has been a favorite eyeshadow for a long time. It's the Kosas 15 Second Eye, and this one is my favorite. It's in Heat. Again, it's kind of got that rosy undertone. All right, we'll put Smolder right above it, so that's kind of more of gold, the Smolder. and heat. Very, very similar. Those are kind of the two one and done shadows that I use most often, which is why they are on my favorite list. Again, all last a long time. You don't need to reapply throughout the day. So the last category is mascaras. My number one mascara by far is the City Beauty Beyond Mascara. I think it retails $27 if you do full price, but I always wait. Well, you can use my link, say 15% anytime. City Beauty is one of those lines that 3, 4, 5 times a year, they'll offer 30% off site-wide or buy one, get one free. So I did stock up on the Beyond Mascara when they had buy one, get one free over the summer. I just love it because one, it's got all these lash conditioning ingredients. So my lashes are getting thinner, more delicate, etc. So I like all the lash conditioning ingredients, but it's also the perfect amount of volumizing whatever it has, right? So I can just do it really quick, one coat. I don't need to go back. I don't need to, work on certain areas. Just one coat. My eyelashes are thick. They're separated. They don't smear, don't flake, last all day till I take it off, and it comes off super easy with water. That's why I love it. I don't have to tug at my eyes. Now for waterproof, I have been reaching for the Essence Lash Princess False Lash Waterproof Mascara. This one was recommended to me by Bobby from Mindful Midlife, and it really is a nice mascara. And if you're looking for waterproof, it works really well. The other drugstore one that I like is the Maybelline Falsies Volume Express Mascara. So this one, it thickens. I, usually will put on 2 coats. I just really like the way it works for me. I've tried a lot of these other viral ones. I don't know. I just like what I like. Like I'm trying a new one on today. We'll see how it lasts at the end. I already know, though it's not volumizing enough. But it just really depends what you're looking for in your mascara. And these are the ones that I love. Okay, and that's it. My top 3 in every category. So between the 2 videos, you could be watching my top 3 for a long time. So anyways, I really appreciate you being here doing this. Don't forget to go watch Kat, give her some love, subscribe to her channel. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.